we know the clitoris is the only part of the human anatomy that's designed nothing, for strictly pleasure. And so
Hmm.
people rely on that. So, your point is a really excellent one, is like, how many people in these studies are numb,
Hmm.
armored, have not resolved the trauma intravaginally, and thus
Hmm.
prefer the external stimulation at their vulva or clitoris and rely on that.
Right.
And over years or decades, that's their go-to.
Hmm.
We don't know, like, what the who the sample size is. And so
Right.
it's really kind of deceiving, or it's information that doesn't provide the full picture.
Welcome back to the Body Joy After Office Hours podcast, where I have the absolute privilege and honor to speak to who I would consider a mentor, Rahi Chun. He is a somatic sex educator, sexological body worker, and the genital de-armoring specialist, in my opinion. Like, he is the person to go to. In our conversation, Rahi and I get into the research and the common experience of women who feel numb, lack of desire, and disconnected internally. And we also discuss how we personally work to restore more pleasure, more sensation, and more orgasm. So you definitely want to stick around and listen to this conversation. We get into the taboo around vibrators. And if you are someone that is reliant only on clitoral stimulation, you might want to look into this. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. Rahi, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Well, Melissa, it's such a luscious invitation coming from you. How could I resist?
I love how we have this side joke of, I'm known as Melissa Mango and you're known as Rocky Cantaloupe in our
That's right.
texting.
That's right. What can be
Yeah,
better than mango and cantaloupe together?
I know, right? Actually, that's a combination I have not tried. Okay,
Yes,
it's
yes.
questionable.
It is questionable. It is questionable. I just had a salad with persimmons.
Uh-huh.
That's a great combo.
Especially now with the fall.
Ah, delish.
Yeah.
Delish,
Wonderful.
delish.
So speaking of fruit,
Yes.
Rocky, you specialize, you're kind of one of the, I would say the main specialists around vaginal de-armoring and sexological
Mhm.
body work. And I'm wondering how this work found you, and maybe
Mm.
you want to get into how would you define what de-armoring actually means for our listeners?
Sure, sure. Thanks for the question. What the image that's coming to me as you ask that question is the very first residential inner pelvic release workshop that I did. It
Hmm.
was through Margot Anand's Sky Dancing Tantra. This was 20 something years ago. And I went alone. And I was paired up with another participant who was probably in her late 50s, and she was a survivor of incest. And so she
Hmm.
had pretty much pain and numbness around the vulva and intravaginal space. And through a series of applying breath, movement, sounding, presence, feeling into the emotions that were stored in the tissues and fascia of her genitalia, and having a space to discharge that as we were soul gazing and engaging in different kinds of breath. By the end of that week, Melissa, she was feeling sensations she had never felt before. And so that
Beautiful.
that it blew my mind. I was like, why
Hmm.
doesn't everyone know about this? And so it just
Hmm.
kind of it put me on a track of wanting to learn everything I could about it, which took me to Thailand to learn the Taoist way of inner pelvic release and increasing blood flow. I studied different psychosomatic approaches that focused on developmental psychology and how our childhood imprints in our pelvis live and inform our adult intimacy patterns. And so just kind of over the years, it kind of found me, really. I just kind of followed
Hmm.
my curiosity,
Hmm.
and kind of this puzzle started forming, and so I started teaching it, and it's just been a joy.
That's incredible. I was originally inspired to have this conversation with you. I mean, because I adore you and your work, but there was a post that you shared with,
Yes.
and it came like there was a couple weeks where some things would kind of pop up at my feed. So it was one of
Mm.
your articles that was about these studies and
Yes.
how a large percentage of women actually don't want to be penetrated. They
Mhm.
prefer clitoral stimulation, and
Mm.
how there was another study that then talked about, well, since they don't want any penetration, let's stick to external stuff alone.
Mm.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about what might be missing in some of these studies, because for
Yes.
me, I'm just noticing that in the world of sex education, again, that's a huge umbrella. There
Mhm.
seems to be some educators that, and good, good willing, or is
Mhm.
that the word I'm looking for? Meaning,
Sure.
good
Like,
meaning.
yes. Well,
That they mean well.
well-intentioned. Yes.
Well-intentioned, yes. And so we want to give permission for people to have their experience. And if they don't
Mhm.
enjoy something, don't worry about it. And there's a way that if internal stimulation, whether it's a finger or
Mhm.
something else isn't really working for you, there is a way to awaken and
Mhm.
maybe make it possible to where it can be pleasurable. And so there seems to be this, if you don't like it and don't enjoy it and you're numb and you just want to go external, then just go
Mm.
that route.
Mm.
And then also, there's not a lot of information I'm noticing that clitoral stimulation doesn't mean just the head of the clitoris. You can
Mm.
actually access the clitoral internally. So I want to open up
Yes.
all of those articles and
Yes.
research papers and just get right into it on your experience
Yes.
on where and how your work comes in, and how we can maybe open up the conversation for other women and people that are partnered with women that are experiencing maybe no pleasure or numbness,
Yes.
and what the possibilities might be.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So these studies that you're referring to, Melissa, I agree. I look at these studies that are all published in, very well reputed, the Journal of Sexual Medicine, the Journal of Sexual Studies, and when they print their byline, it's something like, like we know from studies that 70% of women experience orgasms clitorally, right? And so my mind goes to, because I've had we've all seen clients where, if they had a very traumatic fingering experience, let's say when they were young, then there's an association that gets wired with manual touch and that trauma from when they were, younger, that can elicit a guarding, an unconscious guarding in the intravaginal space. And so, we know the clitoris is the only part of the human anatomy that's designed nothing, for strictly pleasure. And so people rely on that. So, your point is a really excellent one, is like, how many people in these studies are numb, armored, have not resolved the trauma intravaginally, and thus prefer the external stimulation at their vulva or clitoris and rely on that.
Right.
And over years or decades, that's their go-to.
Mhm.
We don't know, like, what who's who the sample size is. And so
Right.
it's really kind of deceiving, or it's information that doesn't provide the full picture.
Right. Yeah. Wonderful. I Would you then walk us through an
Yeah.
arc or a series? Let's say you have a client that's interested and curious.
Hmm.
Maybe there's some trauma that they know about. Maybe they're just curious, like what else may be possible in this
Mm,
de-armoring process. Yeah,
mm.
what does that arc look like for someone that wants to potentially open up possibility of sensation and more pleasure internally,
Sure.
specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as we know, every client has a very, very unique set of circumstances and history and trauma, and it really comes down to their body's sense of safety with touch, and it's different for everyone. So, um, the name of the game is really putting their body in charge, in the driver's seat of what their body is experiencing in regards
Mhm,
to touch, in regards to where their body wants to explore touch and how. So, in answer to your question, Melissa, the first step is really downregulating the nervous system so that we can get an accurate assessment of their body map and their genital map.
mhm.
Um, so I use a modality called neuroaffective touch that really drops the body in to be
Ooh.
yeah, to be receptive to touch sensations.
Ooh, I don't know if I've experienced that specifically. I'm curious
Oh,
how that meets the, sexological bodywork approach.
yes. Yes. Well, so neuroaffective touch, it's on a massage table and the client is fully clothed. And we're attuning as a team, bringing support to different parts of the body that are open to receiving. And support could come in the form of hands, heated pillows, blankets. Essentially, the client feels like they're cocooned in a nest, and in that, any chronic guarding patterns will start to show up.
Mm,
So we address that, and then I do something called full body active consent, which is really a type of bossy massage, where the client is directing the kinds and quality of touch their body is wanting to receive, with a special focus on the 11 erogenous zones of the body, because we want to get an inventory of what parts of the body are receptive to what kind of touch and stimulus. And
mhm,
then, if and only if the client feels safe and wants to explore those principles with the pelvis and genitalia, we first do a process called genital mapping to get a lay of the land of the areas of numbness, pleasure, pain, discomfort, boredom, and then we move into the de-armoring process when the client is ready to address, really the unmetabolized emotions that are keeping that armor in place.
mm. So this is probably at least, like, you just shared 3 sessions. It's a very slow
Hmm.
process,
Yeah.
and I love this approach. This is what got me interested in the work too, is that we can sit in a counseling office, and we
Hmm.
can sit with our friends or a skilled therapist, and that could be beautiful, and something else gets online or something else gets approached that, through actual sensation that you may not be able to reach just through talking.
Yes. The
Yeah.
body remembers everything.
Mhm.
And so, talk therapy has its value and its place,
Yeah.
particularly around metabolizing emotions and
Yeah.
really having a cognitive understanding of a past trauma and, what was missing and, et cetera. But when, to repair a rupture somatically, um, if there's been a rupture that affects the body, it needs to be repaired through the body.
Mhm. And I imagine some of your clients come in and they're not always aware, but maybe they are
Oh my gosh, Melissa,
about the list of ruptures? Yeah.
yeah, I've had clients where, I had one client who was prostituted as a child and she
Wow.
blocked out all of those memories. And now, yeah, yeah. And now she's like, 40 years old. She's in a loving relationship, a great house business with her own kids. And now there's enough resource in her life to address that past trauma. So memories like that can just automatically come back to someone on the
Mhm.
massage table when they're touched into the tissues and places that are storing those memories.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I had something, I'm remembering this when I was working with Catherine and Captain at the school in Canada. We had to practice a certain something with another student, and I
Mm,
was receiving touch and I was fully clothed. And I remember the other student kind of came in, and it was at that time I was like, wait, hold on. Can we do something where I choose when your hands come towards me and then also
mm.
just kind of fling them away? And we
Wow.
just did that over and over, and it was something that just kinda came to me just sitting there, and I've
Mm,
offered that to some students of, like, getting them into a place of power, whether it's using their voice or using their bodies,
Mhm.
where they can actually decide, if touch is going to happen, and you slow everything down,
Mm,
and
mm.
create that choice in the body. Woof,
Yeah,
it gives me goosebumps when I talk about it, because it was something that just kind of came to me, and I was like, wow, can you do this with me? And
yeah,
I wouldn't have
yeah.
been able to find that if I was just, I imagine I wouldn't be able to if I was just talking to a therapist about it.
Totally, totally. So
Yeah.
what you're speaking to has many important points. Like one, the body is infinitely wise, and I
Mhm.
believe if we provide a safe space, it knows what it wants. But the other thing you're sharing is like, like Peter Levine, who created a body of work called somatic experiencing, always
Mhm.
talks about the interrupted defense response. So, like, if I'm being mugged, my instinct is to punch the person, but because they've got a knife, or maybe they're holding me back, that instinct is being interrupted. And what you
Mhm.
just shared about like tossing someone's touch away, you know, somewhere in your body, instinctive desire, there may have been that impulse to do so, but it didn't feel safe to at the time. So
Right.
you're completing that somatic motion. And by
Yeah.
doing so, like freeing up that energy that wanted to do that, however long ago that might have been.
Mhm. Yeah, I had many experiences, just kind of freezing or fawning when I
Mm.
was receiving touch from, all kinds of different
Hmm.
people that I didn't actually want. So it
Hmm.
was nice to like do that over and over again in a space with another practitioner that I could talk to and
Hmm.
go through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you notice the nervous system kind of come back online when
Mm.
sensation and pleasure starts to come back in? Do you want to share a little bit about that? What that may look like?
Yeah. I mean, this is where this has happened a number of times. When I facilitate neuroaffective touch, again, the client is fully clothed and it's on the table. What we learn in neuroaffective touch is that when there are things brought to the backside of the body, a hand, a pillow, a presence, then that part feels supported. When things are placed on the front of the body, and this answers your question, is oftentimes if I know a client has been sexually violated, I will bring a weighted square and cover their pelvis. And when something
Mm.
is covering the front of the body takes that as protection.
Mhm.
And so when it knows that there is a protective barrier there, its musculature can relax because its musculature doesn't have to be in that chronic protective mode. And so often when that protection comes over someone's pelvis and they're lying on the massage table, the sexual energy starts to flow and they start to feel whether it's arousal or turn on or just sensation that they're not used to.
Interesting. So just having the protective layer, or these, it sounds like a weighted blanket,
Yes.
and then receiving the kind of touch that they're wanting on the rest of their body, you're noticing like the whole pelvic
It's
area
like
begin to come online.
come online. Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. It's almost like synapses that didn't feel safe enough because they were in chronic guard mode. You
Yeah.
know, it's like those synapses start to connect again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But then, I mean, the more kind of, um, direct, I mean, when we're de-armoring the intravaginal space, um,
And I
you
imagine
know,
that comes later, like, putting the square or doing this type of touch is kind of this important prep work. And then
yes,
maybe a couple sessions in, if it feels appropriate and the client wants it, then you can move to even external vulva touch and then going more internal.
yes,
Yeah, share about that.
sure. Um, Yeah, it's amazing what memories rise up to the surface. Everything from like DNCs that the client blocked out of their memory because they were Catholic and young and kind of blocked that out, will
Mhm.
come back. And once those memories come back and there's a safe space for the emotions from that experience to be felt and expressed, it's amazing what sensations come back. And
Yeah.
I think one of the most common, like in tantric communities, there's this big emphasis on sacred spot massage,
Right.
prostate massage for penis owners, uh, uh, G spot massage for vulva owners, but it's this, crystallized tissue that's known to hold past trauma. And so sometimes all it takes is, a little bit of castor oil and presence there at the G spot for those tissues to start to melt and absorb that, the properties of the castor seed and blood to flow. And then you start to feel this pulse at the finger. And then all of a
Mm,
sudden they're like, wait a minute, I'm feeling like, what is that? And then
mm.
just like following the rhythm of that pulse. So I'm just supporting where the energy wants to expand. And all of a sudden they're feeling sensations they've never felt before.
Wow. Yeah, I remember years ago at Dow Garden, I was hearing Montauk Chia speak. I think this was in a tantra container that he was doing, a Tao tantric thing, and he
Mm,
said, be careful or just be mindful because when you're touching a woman internally, especially on
mm,
her G spot, you are reaching into a box of photographs. And so you never know what
mm,
memory or what experience may flush up. And so having a lot of presence and care there.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
which
Yeah,
which I'm just reminded of of a fun story if you want to hear it.
yeah.
My partner at the time and I had hosted this voyeur event. And so the
Uh-huh.
voyeur event was all very erotic and playful. And it was where people could sit in a circle, this big theater, and we could witness, real intimacy happening. It wasn't supposed to be performative. It's supposed to
Mm,
be like,
mm,
ooh, what do these people want to share while we're watching? And
mm,
it was wonderful. But we were watching I don't wanna say vaginal fisting, it was more about these 2 lovers, these 2 women, but one of them was kind of, putting her whole hand in, but it was done in this,
mm.
like, playful, sensual way, so both of us were like, "Wow, that looks really
Wow.
fun," and so when we
Uh-huh.
got home, I wanna say it was that night, but it was probably a few nights later, he
Mm,
really wanted to experience and so did I, but what ended up happening is we were doing this playful thing,
uh-huh.
and then as he's, like, inside, I just erupted into all this, erupted into tears. And
Uh-huh.
because he had done a training in a separate container, he was like, oh my gosh, he like slowed way down. He just kept his
Mm,
hands steady and was able to hold space for me without, a whole lot of conversation, but just
wow.
checking in with me and holding the space as I let these
Mhm,
waves
mhm.
of and in all the sessions that I've done, even a de-armoring session years ago, I had never reached this layer of
Wow.
release. So it
Yeah.
lasted a good 30, 40 minutes, I would say, of like what started
Mm.
off as like, "Ooh, let's try something sexy. Oh, wait, we're
Yeah.
we're going into this very emotional, like,
Uh-huh.
experience." But it was
Mm.
beautiful how it was held, and I didn't have any memory specific that popped up, but lots of emotion
Yep.
that I wasn't planning on.
Wow, what a gift. I mean, that's a
I
real
know,
gift.
right?
I mean, clearly there was so much trust, which
Mhm.
is really key. And thank goodness that he was trained to hold, all of that energy release that was moving through you.
Yeah,
I mean, that is just a blessing. And, the point you make is really important. You don't have to know the memories.
right,
Some people are chasing after like wanting to, be factually know who the person was and all of this. It's not necessary. It's really more
right,
about the release of that emotion.
right. Yeah, and I even think about I'm so glad that I was able to tune into that and just allow it to come forward.
Yes.
'Cause maybe a younger part of myself would have been like, "Wait, we're supposed to be sexy right now. What am I doing?" Who
Right.
knows? I just
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And if the trust wasn't there between you and your partner at the time, then maybe
Mhm.
there would have been embarrassment or I'm being too much or,
Yeah,
but and then the release would have been interrupted.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
wonderful.
But it's important. It's a great point to underscore. You never know when the body is ready
Right.
to really metabolize, a past experience.
Mhm,
It could
mhm,
come at any moment.
right.
Hmm.
Do you want to speak about some of the success stories? Of course, you don't have to name or get really
Mm,
particular, but when you're working with a client who is really ready to go into this work, what
mm,
are um, some of the ways this has really improved their
mm,
connection to themselves or their
mm,
relationship with their own body,
mm,
um, their
mm.
their intimacy? What are some big shifts that you've had the pleasure and honor of witnessing?
Sure. Well, I'll mention this because I have a client coming in this afternoon from the East Coast, and I mean this is an extreme situation, but she was advised by her doctor to insert what's called a vaginal mesh for
Mm.
a bladder prolapse, which wasn't even that bad. I mean, now we know there was a great Netflix documentary about it called The Bleeding Edge. We know that, all these companies come out with these products that they want, surgeons and doctors to employ onto their patients. Long story short, the polypropylene mesh tore through her tissues and
Ouch.
they intertwined with her vaginal nerves. It took her like 8 surgeries to remove every piece of vaginal mesh, and then she was just left with what she calls a box. It was 2 inches deep. She just felt nothing.
Wow.
So, yeah. So for like 10 years, she had given up on having a sex life until she had a sensual massage. And then she started feeling something and she said, I want to reclaim my sex life in my vagina. And then she found me. And in the beginning, there was very little sensation, but the body is just a miracle. When we give it the safe space, and with her, it was a lot of scar tissue remediation. It was like
Mhm.
teasing the nerves back to life. And,
Mhm.
I mean, she lived on the East Coast, so she would fly, probably 3 or 4 times a year. And over like a 2-year period, she pretty much restored all of the sensation she had from before the surgeries.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Wow.
now she's just like, um, I mean, kind of, she's in her 60s and she just can't get enough, you know? I mean,
Yes.
yes. Yeah. So she's flying in today, or I think she flew in this morning. She's coming with a new boyfriend because they want to, learn new tantric skills.
Wonderful.
Um,
So you're gonna be seeing both of them in the studio.
correct. In, in,
Wonderful.
in a couple of hours. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, as you know, Melissa, it's like every client is such a teacher.
Yeah.
And it's just, the human body is really magnificent. I
Mhm.
think it's really a matter of the safety, relearning or learning for the first time for a lot of people what your body's erogenous zones are capable of, and learning how to ask and direct, your partner in a way where you're actually getting what your body desires.
Right. Instead of enduring or
Hmm.
yeah.
So much enduring, and so much people pleasing, and so much, just we were never taught. We
Mhm.
were never taught to really advocate for our body.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm curious, your thoughts on, and maybe your experience with working with clients. There's also this idea that if someone uses a vibrator, especially like a
Mm,
Hitachi, that it actually
mm,
doesn't support someone
mhm,
having the full range of experience. And so I'm just curious
mm.
if you've worked with any women around that.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, I don't want to shame anyone who enjoys their vibrator. It's great. Um, I forget, I don't know where I heard this, but early on, somewhere I heard that, extended vibrator use desensitizes the clitoral nerves over time. And I brought this to the class that I teach, Three Keys to Genital De-armoring, and someone challenged me on that,
Mhm.
So I spent an afternoon researching all and I didn't find any research that showed that extensive vibrator use leads to long-term desensitization. What studies show is it does lead to short-term desensitization.
Mhm.
Obviously, a reliance on a toy can bring challenges when you're with a human being who cannot replicate, those
Right.
sensations.
Mhm.
Um, and but those are kind of the downsides, those two things I would say, right?
Right.
Is there's short-term desensitization, and your body may start getting used to and liking effects that cannot be replicated in the bedroom with a partner.
Yeah. And so if someone really wants to, not saying that they have to get rid of their vibrators, because again, I don't want to shame people, but that's probably the next thing that most women come to me for is like, hey, I'm using
Mm,
this vibrator. It would be really nice to be able to experience pleasure in all these other ways. How do I get there? And that's one
mm,
of the things I teach and show them is how do we, you know, maybe lessen the
mm,
vibrator, maybe switch it up to something a little bit softer and then incorporate some of these other things. I'm curious, what are some practices if you're working with a client and they're coming into your studio?
mm,
What are some practices you send home with them that
mm.
support the work that they're doing with you in person?
Sure, sure. Great question. I'm a big fan of vaginal steaming, and
This is
vaginal
where you
steam.
hover over a little basket of
Yes,
herbs? Okay,
exactly,
wonderful.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I
I
love
thought that
vaginal.
was I didn't know that that was actually something legitimate, so thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, well, I would say to anyone who's curious, your body will tell you, you know, do it yourself. And because I had a client who had got a UTI the first time she did vaginal steaming at a Korean spa. So she's very averse to it. And then I have other clients where so much sensation, intravaginal sensation gets restored.
Wow.
But yeah, but it's done in a very specific way. So I combine vaginal steaming with scar tissue remediation. So I have clients take an organic tampon dipped in organic castor oil for hours, insert it intravaginally. Uh, I mean, if there's anal scar, you can do it. You can insert it intraanally and sit over the steam. The steam has the effect of spreading those castor seed properties throughout the tissues of the
Mm.
intravaginal space, increasing blood flow, breaking up scar tissue, relaxing the pelvic floor muscles. And many clients report increased sensation returning as a result.
Wow. I've
Yeah.
never heard of the dipping the tampon in the castor oil and then
Uh-huh.
inserting it. I've only just worked with it, just with my hands.
Yeah. Yeah. That was I had a client who had uh um it was either cervical or uterine cancer. So she had radiation,
Oh, wow.
and her intravaginal tissues were dry and brittle.
Mhm.
And that method of inserting, I mean, once we had enough of an opening to be able to insert an organic castor oil dip tampon, which took many, many sessions, that just sped everything up as far as
Wow.
making the tissues soft and supple and responsive. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And then combining it with the vaginal steaming, it's like 10x.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What is your experience or opinions on the spacers that some women use? The vaginal spacers. Is that what they're
Yeah.
called? Okay.
Like the dilators.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had a number of clients over the years, who suffered from vaginismus, and they often have gone the PT route. And physical therapists often, and I think gynecologists also recommend those increasing size dilators.
Right.
Um, I mean, I can understand the theory behind it because the tissue is pliable and malleable, but nothing replaces the energy of human touch and human contact. And I think the downside of relying on those dilators is that you're kind of sticking a dilator inside of you without really attuning to any emotions that are coming up or the sensations that are coming up. It's very kind of, um, you know, not connected to your emotional experience.
Right.
right? Or
Mhm.
your felt sense of what that may be bringing up.
Mhm.
And usually with vaginismus and other kinds of responses where the body's just trying to protect itself, there's some event or past trauma or experience that it's almost like the tissues are a space holder to remind the body there's some unmetabolized material here you need to look at. And
Yeah.
dilators don't really address that.
Right. They're just kinda sticking it in and
Yeah.
not really making the connection there,
Yeah.
whereas, like, receiving touch and really presence and a slow massage or just holding could probably, yeah, really address that a lot easier.
Yeah, it's like a somatic repair to what was likely a somatic rupture.
Mhm.
So going back to like, going to a talk therapist as opposed to a touch-based therapist, if the touch is what caused the rupture,
Mhm.
then there needs to be a repair with that same element of touch.
Yeah. Mm, beautiful. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
I've I've had a couple clients come to me after visiting a PT, and yeah, they're, like, still having whatever
Mm.
kinda tight muscle tightness, whatever kinda stress
Hmm.
happening, and so, yeah, getting them
Yeah.
more connected to the emotional body. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and then you can really go to the root of what's causing the vaginismus. I think that I mean, I've had clients who've used dilators and they increase the size, but then when they stop, the tissues will go back to, a smaller and smaller opening because
Mhm.
it's not really addressing the root issue that created the body's sense of protection to begin with.
Mhm. Mhm. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanna hear from
Ah.
you, Melissa. I
What
wanna
do you
hear
wanna
from you.
know? What
Well,
do you
my
wanna know?
gosh, I mean, you are one of those rare like, for example, you're on, you're part of the team for Back to the Body, and
Uh-huh.
for the other its counter, so you
Himeros. Yeah.
Himrose, yeah, so you are seeing such a wide array of
Yeah.
transformation,
Yeah.
of people who, have probably been starving for the quality of touch that,
Yeah.
only someone who's as qualified and trained as you can provide. I mean,
Mhm.
the transformative relationship that people have with their own bodies that you get to witness, that you get to facilitate must
Mhm.
be mind-blowing, and you're
Mhm.
on both teams, which is so cool.
Yeah. I think I was one of the first practitioners with Back to the Body that actually worked with women that preferred
Mm.
to work with a female. They just
Yes.
hadn't no one had ever asked, and so one
Mm.
person asked, "Hey, can I love your team, but can I work with a female?" And
Yeah.
Pamela was like, "Yes." So that was exciting and beautiful, and yeah. And I love the work because it's not just me, it is, a whole team, and there's,
Yes.
workshops, there's, the community all working together, and then, yes, you get to come into the studio and have your 2 hours a day of your very personalized sexological bodywork, somatic sex education session,
Mhm.
but there's a magic that happens when there's an entire team supporting a small group of individuals going
Mhm.
through a process together.
Yeah, yeah, because
Mhm.
you're kind of I mean, you're in the soup. They're in the soup for the whole week. You're all in the soup.
Yeah.
So it's very different than just someone coming, like, every other week. Because then they're going
Yes.
back into, the goldfish, bowl where it caused all of these things.
Right. Yeah, there's something beautiful and profound around immersions. It's actually one of my
Yes.
favorite places to work. I imagine you do something
Mhm.
similar, like,
Mm.
whether it's an entire day or an entire weekend, or when someone can really drop in and follow
Mhm.
what's unraveling and what's being uncovered and explored in the body,
Mhm.
versus like coming in for like 1 or 2 hours and going back to home, back to
Right.
stress, back to whatever programs, then coming back. It's almost like we're starting over again. So the deeper
Yes.
work, my preference, the deeper
Mhm.
work, immersions and or the retreats is a way to
Mhm.
really like
Mhm.
get things moving in a more powerful direction. Not to say that
Mhm.
you can't have um really profound things happen in those smaller windows if that's all you have. But that's
Sure.
when I really bring in, okay, once you get home, these are the things that we're going to nourish and support you as you're
Mhm.
going back into your regular life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanna ask you, you've been with Back to the Body for a while now. I'm
Hmm.
guessing that there's a wide range of, um, arousal and pleasure accessibility and
Hmm.
sensitivity that you
Hmm.
witness, and I imagine you get to see how that evolves over the course of the week within one body.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I also come in, it's been a bit since I've done a retreat. They kind of keep me on on
Mhm.
the bench for when it's time to come in, but, I'm
Mhm.
also a what's called side dish. So,
Mm.
not necessarily a practitioner that works with the same group of women the whole
Oh, I
weekend,
see.
but, like,
Mm.
I'll come in and offer, like, someone that wants to experience a femdom experience or
Oh,
a
cool.
sensual massage from a feminine,
Yeah.
so something that they could just sign up for as an
Mm.
additional little yum yum, and then I'll
Mm.
teach workshops or lead the group through things and just be a part of the group. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that and the room service is the main places that I've worked.
Oh, okay, great, great.
Yeah,
But this goes back to your question that you posed at the top of the podcast, Melissa, where like you've probably seen so many intravaginal spaces that start to come alive,
yeah,
and if they hadn't had someone like you,
right,
to facilitate that experience, they would go on years, maybe decades, not realizing what potential for pleasure there was inside of them.
right. Yeah, taking the time out of their day, dropping in, the combination of the supportive environment, getting out of
Mhm.
their normal go-tos, and then having this beautiful reserved time of
Mhm.
touch and attention that is all around,
Mhm.
specifics of what they're actually wanting. It's
Yeah,
really
and
beautiful.
it is beautiful, but this really speaks to, you asked about the homework I give clients,
Mm,
and like it's really up to each person to choose how they're going to prioritize their embodiment, their sensuality, their sexual pleasure.
yeah,
Because there's a million different excuses you can make for how there's not enough time. But what are you choosing and what are you prioritizing in your life? And that's
yeah.
something that I underscore with clients, because you can come
Mhm,
here and, maybe your G spot is awakened or your cervix is awakened. But, if you just ignore it when you go back out into the real world, like like you need to keep deepening and I mean, it's an intimate relationship, just in the
mhm,
same way we need to prioritize space in our calendar for our intimate relationships. We need to do that with the intimate relationship with our own body as well.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, this is why I started doing those. I have a background in hypnotherapy, and so I used to create these little audio tracks. And then, so when I got into this line of work, I thought, well, I can just guide somebody
Mm,
through, because sometimes we need a little bit of guidance to
sure.
explore, different intentions or different way of touch, something to kind of keep us on track and inspired, and then eventually you can go off and kind of create your own rhythm. But the audios are beautiful because you can do them anytime,
Mm,
anywhere. It doesn't have to be, 2 hours. It can be even 30 minutes. My preference is 45 minutes or more, but,
mm, mm.
and it also kind of helps people drop in, which, I mean, I even have trouble dropping in sometimes. And so being guided or having, a friend or someone, a women's group or whatever, some level of accountability, whether it's again a
Yes.
coach or a group or something or an audio track, something to kind of keep me
Hmm.
inspired. And so I know exactly what that's like when clients get home and they have
Yep.
families or kids or a thriving business and it's like go go go
Hmm.
go go. It's like no, we have to give this to yourself too because it adds to and it spills into the rest of your life with your creativity,
Yes.
the connection to your body, how much energy you have for your partner and your children and all
Yes.
of it. It's all
All
connected,
of it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would go as far as to say that it's kind of like our central well.
Mhm.
that needs to be replenished and nourished and
Mhm.
prioritized. Because as you said, everything spills from that center,
Mhm.
of embodiment and resource and agency.
Yeah. I was just at a women's retreat and I just kind of came in as a guest teacher. And these women are like doing really powerful
Mm,
things in the world. Most of them are running companies,
mm,
have big families, etc. And
mhm,
it was a new concept to
mm.
kind of sit still, okay, focus on them, and
Yeah.
then feel in their
Mm.
body. So we just did some very simple things that were
Mhm.
mind blowing, and
Isn't
then
that
giving
interesting?
yeah, it was like, wow, like, again, just there's all kinds of things pulling our attention all day
Totally.
long, and so,
Totally.
again, prioritizing that slowing down and feeding ourselves and really listening and really
Yeah.
making a connection, especially to our grounding, our
Yes.
sex, our
Yes.
bodies. Mhm.
Totally. Totally. Our
Yeah.
pelvic floor. Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
most
it's
women that I was talking to that weekend, it was like we were doing this exercise, kinda like this body scan, but we're noticing, like, where do you feel things?
mm,
What's maybe not online? That's still great
mm,
information, and so many
mm,
women were like, "It stops about here," or "It stops about at my belly button," or whatever, and then
mhm,
giving them, you know, the power of just using their breath and even their own movement,
mm,
and really, like,
mm,
taking their hands and using those as
mm.
grounding tools. I mean, this was all
Yes.
so new to them. They're like, "I had no idea."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so important and so vital. And yeah, it's reminding me of clients who are, leaders, kind of,
Mhm.
like CEOs and decision makers. And I feel like there's such a goal and results and driven agenda. Um, yeah, I just kind of feel for their bodies that are being, um, what's the word? Like, not paid attention to,
Mhm. And also,
you know?
most people, at least the clients that I see in Austin, Texas, where we have a lot of people in tech and that are entrepreneurs and like
Mm,
doing big things, running big
mm,
companies, and they're living from the neck up, which is a great way to run your business, right?
mm,
But
mm.
teaching them how to slow down and change over those hormones and not be in this stress response, with a lot
Mhm.
of cortisol and things, but teaching them the simple tools of breath and relaxation and making it more balanced and connecting with
Yes.
their bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very
So
busy in Texas.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet.
yeah,
Well, that's good. That's good. Thank God you're there.
I know, right? So,
Totally.
Rahi, before we wrap up our conversation,
Mm,
I get curious. What are the things that you are personally exploring and learning in your own sensual
mm,
practice, or what are
mm,
some things that you can share? I guess
mm.
to humanize. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you mentioned, Dow Gardens. I mean, I'm a
mm,
big fan of Master Chia, and was introduced to the microcosmic orbit, back before Dow Gardens, like in the '90s. And I've never had a partner who was also curious about the conscious circulation of sexual energy. And
really,
so, yeah, I mean, it's ironic. I was
this
dating this.
surprises me.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and so what's really wonderful is I'm in a partnership now where my partner is practicing the microcosmic orbit herself, and so in our lovemaking, we're bringing that into um,
Mm.
the space, and so not only is it cultivating energy within ourselves, but when we do it whilst we're lovemaking, it kind of opens a portal up for um, a different kind of energetic experience. And
Uh-huh.
so, we're both very inspired and wanting to go as deep as we can with, this conscious circulation of energy for with the intention of expanding our consciousness together.
I love that. Was that a
Thank
pretty
you.
easy thing to kinda click into when the 2 of you got into partnership?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the lovely thing about, somehow energetically, we were very aligned from the
Mhm.
beginning. And it's the kind of thing where, I would put my hand on her hip and she would be like, "Oh my God, my hip wanted your hand right there." There's some sort of thing where our bodies are communicating to each other energetically. And so dropping into something like the microcosmic orbit was just kind of a natural like extension. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Now, I remember, was it last year or the year before where I was in Santa Monica
Yeah.
and you were recording the
Yeah.
content for your couples? Yeah, do you
That's
go
right.
into the microcosmic orbit in that content?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
we have a couples course called Divine Union for Lovers, and in it,
Mm.
in the advanced bonus section, we do introduce the microcosmic orbit.
Mhm.
Um, as you know, it requires someone who I mean, it's easier once you've had some sort of meditation practice. So it's in our bonus section. But there's so many exercises and practices in the main body of that course around sharing sharing energy and expanding consciousness. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. Do you know about the erotic blueprints? The
yeah.
5 okay. Do
Hmm.
you find that folks that are more energetic have just an easier time kind of rolling with and learning the microcosmic orbit, especially when you're with another person? Have you
Absolutely.
noticed? Yeah, I've noticed
Yeah.
that. I'm like, I have a lot of clients that are more geared more sexual, and they're like, "Ugh, I'm
Right.
struggling. I don't know. I can't track
Totally.
this in my body."
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. There are a lot of folks like that.
yeah,
Yeah, because they need it. They need like the felt literal experience.
yeah,
Right. And it's a much more subtle, the
yeah.
energetic is a lot more subtle and so arousing when you can drop into that field.
I find that like adding a cock stroke helps.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay,
Of
you
course,
feel
of
that?
course.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But,
Yeah.
that's a great point in sharing that, like, whatever bridge can help, you, your lover, your clients get to, like, if someone's sexual, then a cockstroke um, can be the bridge to their
Yeah.
feeling their energetic. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Uh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out and dropping in with us today. Is there anything that you want to share that may be coming up that listeners may be interested? I know you've got a pretty in-depth de-armoring course coming up that I've been wanting to
Yes.
hop in for about 2 years now.
Oh.
Do you want to share with us about that?
Sure. Yeah. The signature course that I offer is called The Three Keys to Genital De-Armoring for Reclaiming and Expanding Pleasure.
Mm,
It's really, I mean, I love it. This will be the fifth cohort. Um, it's a blend of professional practitioners and lay people who just want to understand why their bodies are responding in the ways that they are, at whatever level of sensitivity and arousal that you have. And it's a wonderful, like, because I've studied de-armoring from four different schools, the Taoist, the Tantric, psychosomatic, and energetic, like I've just curated kind of the best of everything to make it very practical. Um,
mm.
and so it comes with 9 group learning Zoom calls. I have guest speakers come in that are all kind of experts in the field of genital de-armoring. And a registration just opened. So,
All
um,
right.
yeah. Yeah. If you go to rahichun.com, you can go under courses and look for the 3 keys, and all the information will be there.
I love that. And that's all virtual.
Yes, you can be anywhere
Okay.
in the world. We have quite a few. It's like usually 2/3 North America and like a 1/3 folks from Europe who tune in.
I love that. All right,
Yeah.
Rahi. Well, I'll make sure to put all that information in the show notes. And again, thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and I look forward to seeing you at some
Yeah,
point.
at some point. Yeah, I look forward to seeing you too. And I want to say, Melissa Mango, you are one of the bright stars in our field. And I feel like,
Oh.
yeah, I mean, as I shared, like you're on staff on these two amazing transformative experiences, so you cover like the whole whatever gender, whatever body you're in. And here you are, like, you're just kind of like this portal for cool, sexual being as you are.
The title of my new book. No, I'm kidding.
That's cool. I'd buy that.
Oh, thank you so much, Rahi.
For sure,
That
for
that means
sure.
a lot. Well, I look forward to sharing a cantaloupe mango salad with you at some point. We're gonna have to check that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All
I
right.
love it. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Take care.